स्टूडेंट्स को पहले ही भेज दिया। अक्टूबर संडे ना कि सैटरडे होगा मेरे ख्याल से।
आज 14 है, 20 सैटरडे होगा।
साढ़े 3 से Dear friends, welcome back in this teleconferencing program of Advanced Certificate in Power Distribution Management. We are discussing about the distribution business and information technology, the various applications in distribution businesses. Now I would request Mr. R.C. Dhoop to pick up this topic further.
Coming back to our IT enablement, how IT enabled is going to help in the energy audit module. Basically, the objective of module is to capture hierarchical view of the energy accounting using intelligent analysis tools for identifying revenue leakage through high loss pockets. The energy audit module will collect data from metering module without human intervention and use customer indexing and asset coding database for deriving energy consumption of consumers connected to any node. The module, coupled with network analysis tools, will calculate technical and commercial losses at any point in the system from actual power flow. Now, the system has features for regrouping of the distribution transformers and 11 kV feeders in case of network reconfiguration, which generally happens through RMUs or the other SCADA links. The energy audit module has intelligent data analysis feature to detect possible malpractices. It will also support for load forecasting and system planning for short, medium and long-term basis. So the benefits out of it: provide energy balance of substations to ensure proper working of meters and calculate busbar losses, transformation losses. Provide balance of 11 kV feeder flow against consumption of ST consumers and DTs to find out ST losses and DT losses. Provide balance of a particular DT against summation of consumption of all consumers connected to DT to find out distribution transformer losses. Now, present management information systems, I'll skip it because all of you are aware, being a part of the system. So, to help this, the IT help us through the management information system module, and this module is enabled to maintain, customize and generate various reports for each of the levels as we proceed up in the hierarchy of the organization. It also supports to give information reports as required, desired by the regulator, state government the energy department, the central government, etc. It is capable of generating automatically predefined periodicity, the reports, as well as any customization reports it's able to generate, and this is linked to each of the business process modules for generating MIS reports, and the formats are finalized after thorough study of the business process. This acquires the data without human intervention. The data is collected at the lowest level, and the same source and the same data is used in each of the standard formats. The module also has business intelligence tools for data mining, analysis, trend setting, trending, simulation, etc. It gives us the monitoring module for revenue, its reconciliation, grievance, public representations, the legal cases, vigilance, theft, embezzlement cases. Now, here this is a typical slide which tells indicated what is MIS requirements for each of the levels. What levels we have basically grouped into three. Top level, that is chairman, directors, and it gives a utility wide information. Another is the middle level, zone, circle level, then lower level, that is division, subdivision level. Now each of the levels are interested in a particular set of data, like the key areas for the top levels are in finance, operations efficiency, in reviewing the customer satisfactions, the developments and investments, whereas the middle level, who is mainly responsible for running the business, day-to-day business, is also interested in the finance, operational efficiency, customer satisfaction and developments. Now top level basically in the finance looks after the net profits, revenue, return on investment, revenue per unit, collection period, and operational efficiencies are for the overall losses, productivity, reliability and costing. Customer satisfaction, as you are aware, in the number of outages, billing errors and response times, and development for project progress, cost overruns, new investments. Whereas at the middle level in the finance, they are interested in looking after category wise sales, revenues, revenue per unit, collection efficiency, disconnection progress, major accounts with them, and operational efficiency substation wise, disrupted areas, restoration time, number of customers affected, maintenance planning and scheduling. Then customer satisfaction on the issues handling, restoration time, billing errors. Then scheme progress and its implementation in their area. At the lower level, they monitor collections, consumer wise, category wise, then collection efficiency. Operational efficiency, they look into the feeder wise, distribution transformer wise, the number of consumers affected in their areas, and customer satisfaction, the area wise, the billing errors, the metering status, etc. And at the down below, the development of each development investments in each of the specific work areas. Now, what we expect from the asset management module? Asset management IT module shall enable us to compile assets and reduction of inventory, downtime of equipment for outage management. It will also tell, in case it is not in my stores, which stores this equipment is lying, where I can procure it from. It will improve reliability of supply by tracking and providing for short-time portable equipment. It helps us in predicting the completion of useful life of an asset for its timely replacement. And this module, coupled with the trouble call management system, keeps track of maintenance work on each asset along with the cost incurred. This helps us in conducting statistical analysis of condition of assets, criticality of the assets, asset age, asset performance, asset value and risk management, that is insurance claim, etc. And asset management system coupled with data acquisition system shall help in conducting load analysis, fault analysis, failure node analysis. So this module helps us in resource planning efficiently to enable utility to take quick and correct decision making in day-to-day operation. Similarly, the maintenance management module, it uses tools to enable better planning and coordination of various maintenance activities, reduce breakdowns, etc. Now maintenance management module, it forecasts planned maintenance jobs, it automatically creates work orders, it segregates, it's automatically generation schedule, and it fixes the priorities where the supply is to be maintained. Identification of opportunity maintenance it does, and short time medium planning can be done. Creation of inspection work packets, forecasting and resource planning and review, and analysis report of minimum time between failure, etc. Now coming to customer services, the part 3, third chapter of this. Now customer care center, a front and customer care center, what we look at it.
Since these are the interactive sessions, so we request you to ask any question at any time. Yes.
See, present customer care center is again focused towards the substation office itself. The consumer complains to the substation office, it dispatches the crew and repairs it, the information comes to the substation office. Now the substation is supported by the subdivision, so consumer if complains to the subdivision office, he has to pass on the complaint to the substation, and there is no feedback given to the consumer. So there are various difficulties and dissatisfaction in the customer. Now what are generally the issues which are related to the customer care services? The quality reliability of supply. So there are large number of scheduled and unscheduled outages, lack of communication of utility on possible outages and outage time, response to trouble call and it is non-customer friendly. The other is, besides the quality, is the accuracy of the bills. Inaccurate meter reading, no meter reading or reading taken but not reported. Change meter status or split between cycles, wrong calculation, no posting of collection. So this all are the issues for the customer service. Now while payment related, the bills are not delivered in time to make a payment. Waiting time for the bill payment in the queues is too long. Now preferred versus the available mode of payments. Complaint handling, demand versus provision of new connections, responsiveness to customer queries and specifically to bull queries, that our response times are too long, and preferred versus available facility to log complaints is limited. What customer care module will give us? It shall be a front-end IT platform with single window operation, easy access on telephone with numbers and multilingual. Complaints can be received through telephone, email, fax and IVR system or through letters or personal visit. This is outsourced single touch point for all types of customers interaction with utility, including fuse of calls, new connections, change, transfer, name change, category change, metering billing related complaints and maintenance of LT network and ST network till substation boundary. The single window operation shall be linked with all other business processes of the utility and will have access to real-time data update of business process to act promptly. These are highly computerized, having complaint escalation facility and equipped with wide variety of latest technologies to manage large volumes of work, to keep the agents productive and to process the calls quickly. It generates exception of MIS and analyzes the complaints on daily basis. It also provides services of happy calling or payment reminders, group messaging system for load shedding, planned shutdowns, warning in case of group faults or other common power related information. Now this is a typical diagram, the layout of a centralized customer care center. We have a customer relations module and we have different interfaces, IVRS, CTI, dialer, messaging, email, web service, and this CRM is linked to the database of the consumer, the billing database, and it helps to the, there is the IVRS voice data logger, it gives, and how the different components of the customer care center are typically linked. The hardware requirement of the integrated customer care center is call switching equipment, that is soft PBX, switch-based PBX, IVRS, computer telephony integration, automatic call distributors, dialer, and the voice logger. This is the hardware requirement for a typical customer care center. Then this has call monitoring and recording facility, IP telephony, touchscreen kiosk for customer query including duplicate bill generation, cash collection kiosk, CTI, remote monitoring capabilities and remote logging facility, and all these reside on single server or span across multiple sprayer as per the architecture of the utility or its requirements. Now, computer telephony integration. This is the technology that allows interactions on telephone and a computer to be integrated or coordinated. As contact channels have expanded from voice to include email, web, fax, the definition of CTA has expanded to include the integration of all customer contact channels with computer systems. Now, following functions are implemented using CTI. That is calling line information display, number called IVR options, screen population on answer, with or without using calling line data, on-screen dialing, then on-screen phone control. Now, what is the function of a automatic call distributor? Basically, it's a device which distributed incoming calls to a specific group of terminals used by agents. It has a feature used to handle incoming calls and route the same to the appropriate agents based on factors such as time available, skill sets, and priority levels. It consists of hardware for terminals, switches, telephone lines, and software for routing strategy. The routing strategy is a rule-based set of instructions that tells the ACD how calls are handled inside the system. Most of the time, this will be a set that determines the best available agent for a certain incoming call. Extra variables are taken into account to find out the reason why the customer is calling. Sometimes the caller's ID or ANI is used. More often, on a simple IVR is used to just ask for the reason. Now we have voice loggers and the voice messaging, which most of you are aware of it. So I'll skip this. Then call switching equipment, PBX. PBX system should support both analog and digital lines. The capacity on trunks and extensions shall be as per the size of the call center. PBX will, with all features of an advanced PBX system, should be CTI and IP enabled. Call switching system should also support standard features like DNIS, call party number, calling party number, and CLI. PBX can be the switch based or server based and should have features like call transfer, conference, call pickup, call monitoring, call recording, call hunt groups, DID, that is direct inward system access, extension dialing, voice messaging, and automatic call distribution. Now IVRS we have already talked, which each one of us know. Now IVR system shall be used as front end for call centers to identify what service the caller wants and to extract numeric information such as electricity payment dues, bill payment status, or provide answers to simple questions such as completion of queues of calls or allow pre-recorded information to be heard. This should be properly designed so as to connect callers to the desired service promptly with minimum of fuss. Now this system should be scalable as per the locations of consumer base. All the calls received at the center shall first land on IVRS. We shall welcome the user and present a voice menu to select the desired service and also key in the retrieved information from the system. IVR system shall be CTI supported so that all the information entered by the caller on the IVR is to be passed to the customer service representative screen as pop-up. Then we have just discussed about the general architectures of the IVR system. They must have interface with the business process database on GIS platform. It must be built on open industry standards. There should be a client server architecture and scalable. It should have redundant connections to both the telecommunication network and LAN interfaces. These connections must have failover capability to ensure redundancy in the event of failure within the network servicing the IVR, and for the LAN, providing the data from back-end systems. IVR menu tree structure should not be more than 5 levels with 4 to 5 options per level. This is the latest advanced speech processing feature of the IVRS. The multiple advanced speech processing technology, large vocabulary recognition, natural language understanding, speaker verification, speech to text may be required as features. This ASP technology should be provided with software that runs on an open industry subsystem platform under Unix or Windows. The platform should permit qualified third-party developers to integrate additional ASP technology and functions, and should support English and local languages.
There is a call from Bhubaneswar. Yes, Bhubaneswar, please ask your question.
This is my question to Mrs. Rakhi Sharma. Program. Hello, madam.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Please ask your
Program
question.
coordinator, Rakhi Sharma. My question to Rakhi Sharma, program coordinator. Actually, we are attending all these classes, but we are seeing that the material you have displayed in the TV screen is not matched with the study material. So kindly send one CD copy to all the study centers to facilitate us to make the copy and use in our home or in our offices.
Definitely, we will think about your suggestion. Please just mute the volume of your television first. So, because yeah, these sessions we will the experts just discuss and give the additional knowledge apart from your books. So definitely we will try to put these slides on the our web, and we will create a web page for the ACPDM program and put these slides there. And definitely we will see the next sessions and the next our next batch. We will think about this and provide these CDs to all the students. Thank you for the suggestion. Definitely we will think about this.
I'll just respond. We have just discussed the literature provided you is adequate to a large extent, but this will facilitate you even beyond the literature, the practical aspects which you are likely to see in the field on immediate basis, to equip with you and supplement you with the literature already provided. So this is a continuation, and it is the same thing which is a updated version of the technology what we are going to likely to have in the utilities in the field very shortly.
And at present, some of the CDs, some of the presentations are present at Drum website. You can go through that. We have loaded these CDs at Drum website. And definitely we will create our website for this specifically for ACPDM program, and all the we will upload all the CDs there, and you can get the material from there. Thank you.
Now coming back to this, I say, how do we web enable the distribution business? Now one of the most effective ways to developing a fruitful customer relationship is to involve customers right from the stage of planning and organizing the services intended for them. Now websites are very popular today due to paucity of time, convenience and cost effectiveness. It is a virtual office in which customer can look into his her bill and consumption details, lodge any complaint, look for any information, give feedback. An employee can see his mail and other personal details. Utility can post bills on the web, get payment, get or submit various reports requested by customers and management, etc. Today customers expect a host of customizable solutions and statistical data with what if information scenarios. information on consumption patterns, questions, confirmations on emails or SMS, messages and other general information from utilities. A website is the most suitable tool for meeting such customer demands. And today most of us are saying with the technology being available, and most of the today operations are being done through the web itself, and people are fast catching up with it. What should be the features of website? Now particularly for the applications, new connections, name, load and category change. Once the data is filled and submitted, an email can be sent with a URL to take the information to the utility personnel. An email request could be sent with the action taken or information missing needed to complete this application. Change in billing address and contact number. Same can be requested by consumer after a valid login and utility personnel to modify database after verification. Disconnection of supply and removal of meter. Consumer can request for disconnection and removal of meter after valid login and further verification by the utility personnel. Online billing details for the consumers. They can have access to the bill, past consumption, they can have comparative to the previous years or the same month or the same billing cycle, and he has a choice of making a payment through the internet gateway there and then. Complaints and the submissions can be made through the websites. Now complaint model should be interfaced with the existing CRM software used by the customer care center, and all complaints in the call center database are to be available on the website, including the complaint that did not originate from the website. It contains, this website should contain the regulatory aspects, may contain the relevant formats in PDF or HTML format. Now special requests can be entertained through the web, that is special meter readings, bill summary as we have already discussed, change in bill language, bill due date alert with reminder facility through email, and newsletters of the utility, etc. Now this should have corporate, this utility also has a corporate social responsibility. So energy conservation related issues, static interactive page to attract school children, housewives. Games, cost effective games aimed at disseminating information about aspects of the energy. Few quizzes based on energy information may be given on the website itself, that is energy conservation, safety rules, energy saving measures, etc. Then online query forms, events, conservation projects, frequently asked connections. Now websites launched by various power distribution utilities. Generally many of the utilities have got the web pages which give the information on the administrative, technical and commercial operations such as consumer services, new connection, forms, grievance redressals, consumer complaints, tariffs, meters, bills, energy calculations, consumer charter. So this is a typical chart, what utilities, what is the current status of it for each of the utility, to what extent it is providing the what information on the website. Now I'll request my colleague Mr. Rudra to give the part 4. He should begin with the geographical information system, customer indexing and asset mapping along with GIS-based network analysis software. Okay. So thank you.
There is an announcement. The next video conferencing session is on 20th October. The time is 3:30 to 6:15. We will cover the topic electrical safety and disaster management. You have already received the whole schedule of the video conferencing program. As per this, the next is 20th October. Thank you. Now I request Mr. S. Rudra to proceed on the next topic of GIS applications in distribution business.
Good morning, students. Now we start with what is GIS. GIS is a collection of computer hardware, software and geographic data for capturing, managing, analyzing, displaying and managing data and associated attributes which are spatially referenced to the earth. Now we can tell, all of you have seen a railway map. What does railway map gives you? Railway map is a map connecting number of stations. by seeing the map you can tell that yes, these are the railway station and these are the railway lines, these lines are going from this station to that station. It doesn't give you more information. But a GIS enabled railway map can give you an information that what trains are coming in a particular station, what is the actual time of arriving the train, what is the present day schedule of the train, whether it is coming to the station in time or not. It can also track and locate the present location of the train on the actual location of the train in the line, where it is, wherefrom you can easily guess how much time it can take. So all these are mix of this is basically GIS. It is in a more general sense, GIS is a tool that allows user to create interactive queries, user created searches, analyze the spatial information, edit data, maps and present the results of all these operations. This is a mixture of people, software, data, hardware and application. This map is a first time GIS what we have know in history. This is the earliest use in geographic method in 1854 when John Snow depicted a cholera outbreak in London using points to represent the location of some individual cases. His study of the distribution of cholera led to the source of the disease, a contaminated water pump within the heart of the cholera outbreak. This is the first time GIS application has been used. It is not in the conventional way we are using GIS today, but he has pointed out in the London map the water pipelines and the points of cholera outbreak. From there he has come to the conclusion which water pump is contaminated. The first true operational GIS was developed in Ottawa, Canada by the Federal Department of Forestry and Rural Development. Canada Geographic Information System CGIS was developed by Dr. Roger Tomlinson and was used to store, analyze and manipulate data collected for the Canada land inventory. An indicative to determine the land capability for rural Canada by mapping information about soils, agricultural, recreation, wildlife, waterfall and forestry, and land use at a scale of 1:50,000. A rating classification factor was added to the permit analysis. GIS is basically a map and database. Every element in the map has association with some database table. Basically, for the purpose of GIS, what we will be using distribution business, we can consider of three types of data. One is vector data, another is raster data and another is TIN data. Because all the GIS, all the informations are stored in a computer. Only the data can be stored in a computer. This is the first type of data we consider, it is raster data. Raster data consists of rows and columns of cell wherein each cell is stored in a single value. Raster data can be images, raster images, with each pixel or cell containing a color value. Additional value recorded for each cell may be a discrete value such as land use, a continuous value such as temperature or a null value if no data is available. Raster data is stored in various formats from a standard file-based structure of TIFs, JPEG, etc. to the binary large object files and data stored directly in a relational database management system similar to other vector-based feature classes. Database storage when properly indexed typically allows for quicker retrieval of raster data but can require storage of millions of significantly sized records. These are the raster data. In a map, GIS database, this can be stored, this information that is X, Y, the coordinate of the point in the map, the land use, what is the type of land use, density in that area, crime rate, everything can be stored. The second type of data is vector data. Vector data type uses geometrics such as points, lines, series of point coordinates or polygons, also called the areas, shapes bounded by the lines to represent objects. Examples include property boundaries for a housing subdivision represented as polygons, and well location represented as points. Vector features can be made to respect spatial integrity through the application of topology rules such as polygons must not overlap. Means if we represent a road in a GIS platform, then road must be continuous. There should not be breakage in the road. Vector data can also be used to represent continuously varying phenomena. These are the example of vector data. We have node number 1 which is having coordinate x and y. Node number 2 coordinate 1 and 4. We will have a line which is from point line A, first node to last node, point 1 to 3. B point node 3 to 4. C for 4 to 2. In this also we can put additional information. For example, in an electrical line, if we consider this line A is electrical line, we can say what is the current power flow in the line, what is the capacity of the line. We can also represent area by the vector data. That is, node number x, the x, y coordinates are there, and a polygon A is node sequence 1, 3, 4, 2, 1. And we can also put additional information, what is the area of this polygon, what is the population in this polygon. Another type of data used is TIN data. This is contour lines and triangulated irregular network are used to represent elevation or other continuously changing values. TIN record values at point location which are connected by lines to form an irregular mesh of triangles. The faces of the triangles represent the terrain surface. This is a TIN model. Basically, if in a map we want to show the elevations, we have to use the TIN model. There you can see from the map, in each node there are 3 dimensions were given, x, y, and another the dimension z. Means it is to represent the height. And each triangle A, B, C, D is having a node sequence and the neighboring triangle. These all information are stored in a relational database in a GIS application. The non-spatial data are also loaded in the GIS database. Additional non-spatial data can be stored beside the spatial data represented by the coordinates of a vector geometry or the position of a raster cell. In vector data, the additional data are attributes of the object. For example, a forest inventory polygon may also have an identifier value and information about tree species. In raster data, the cell value can store attribute information, but it can also be used as an identifier that can relate to records to another table. In electricity network, a pole we can represent it by a point as a vector data, but pole has a different attributes. It can be a concrete pole, it can be a steel pole, it can be a rail pole, and there must be a height of the pole. We can also have what is the age of the pole. All these information can be stored in a GIS database, and these are non-spatial data. For creating an GIS application, we have to capture the data. This as entering information in the system. This consumes much time of GIS practitioners. There are variety of methods used to enter data into a GIS where it is stored in a digital format. Existing data printed on paper or maps can be digitized or scanned to produce digital data. A digitizer produces vector data as an operator trace points, lines and polygons, boundaries from a map. Scanning a map results into raster data that can be further processed to produce vector data. Other than the map, for creating an GIS application, we also have to have a survey. Survey data can be directly entered into a GIS from digital data collection system on survey instruments. Positions from a global positioning system GPS another survey tool, and can also be directly entered into a GIS. Remotely sensed data also plays an important role in data collection and consists of sensor attached to a platform. Sensor include cameras, digital scanners and LiDAR, while platforms usually consist of aircraft and satellites. The majority of digital data currently comes from photo interpretation of aerial photographs. Soft copy workstations are used to digitize features directly from digital photographs. This system allows data to be captured in 2 and 3 dimensions with elevation measured directly from a stereo pair using principle of photogrammetry. Currently, analog aerial photos are scanned before entered into a soft copy system, but as high quality digital cameras become cheaper, these are no more used. Satellite remote sensing provide another important source of spatial data. Here satellites use different sensor packages to passively measure the reflections from the part of the electromagnetic spectrum or radio waves that are sent out from an active sensor such as radar. Remote sensing collects raster data that can be further processed to identify objects and classes of interest such as land cover. When data is captured, the user should consider if the data should be captured with either a relative accuracy or absolute accuracy, since this could not only influence how information will be interpreted but also the cost of data capture. In addition to collecting the entire spatial data, attribute data is also entered into a GIS. For vector data, this includes additional information about the objects represented in the system. After entering data into a GIS, the data usually requires editing to remove errors or further processing. For vector data, it must be made topologically correct before it can be used for some advanced analysis. For example, if a road network lines must connect with nodes at an intersection, errors such as undershots and overshot must also be removed. For scanned map, blemishes on the source map may need to be removed from the resulting raster. For example, a flick or a dart might connect 2 lines that should not be connected. Now the raster data which is captured, mainly the image data, these are converted to vector form. Because vector data can be immediately calculated and queried. Raster data is difficult to be queried. Data restructuring can be performed by a GIS to convert data into different formats. For example, a GIS may be used to convert a satellite image map to a vector structure by generating lines around all cells within the same classification, while determining the cell spatial relationships such as adjacency or inclusion. More advanced data processing can occur with image processing, a technique developed in late 1960s by NASA and the private sector to provide contrast enhancement, false color rendering and a variety of other techniques, including use of 2-dimensional Fourier transformation.
You can proceed further.
Now, for understanding map, especially digital map, we have to understand projection, coordinate systems and registration. A property ownership map and a soil map might show data at different scales. Map information in a GIS must be manipulated so that it registers or fits with information gathered from other maps. Before the digital data can be analyzed, they may have to undergo other manipulation, projection and coordinate conversion, for example, that integrate them into GIS. Now, Earth is a spherical object. We are staying in a spherical object, but the maps what we are using are in 2 dimensions. So every point from a spherical object has to be converted into 2 dimension, that is through a mathematical calculation. There it is, the actual shape of Earth is shown here. This is the actual shape of Earth, and it can be represented by various models, each of which may provide a different set of coordinates, that is latitude and longitude elevation for any given point in the Earth's surface. The simplest model is to assume the Earth is a perfect sphere. As more measurements in the Earth have accumulated, the models of the Earth have become more sophisticated and more accuracy. And Earth we consider as an ellipse, and different types of ellipse are considered better for different part of the world. The GPS satellite uses the universal datum WGS84. For more accurate results, the map coordinate surveyed through GPS system needs to be transferred to the Everest datum. For India, the Everest datum is the best, most accurate. However, for the purpose of mapping, the electricity utility map with WGC84 is considered. What is projection? Projection is a fundamental component of map making, the mathematical process used to transfer location from the earth's surface to corresponding location on a map is called projection process. And every map is based on a particular projection. These are many possible projections that help makers, the map makers can use, each of which has its own particular strength and weaknesses. However, no map projection is perfect. All projections introduce some types of distortion. Picking the right projection in a particular mapping project is a cartographer's most important task. Projection process involves a lot of intimating mathematics. Fortunately, if you ignore the maths and just look at the concept, projection projects are not really very complicated at all. Basically, they involve nothing more than tracing shadows. This is a projection system. The geometric alignment of a model of the earth, usually a spheroid, a light source and a developable surface that together determine how location from the surface of the model of the earth will be transferred to a corresponding location to a developable surface. Once the geometric relationship is established by setting the projection form, case and aspect, the projection process is used to transfer location from the model of earth to the developable surface. The three fundamental components of a projection is a shadow of an opaque object on the surface of the model of the earth, which are cast by the light source and fall on the developable surface, make up the map created by the projection process.
So, now I'll just interrupt. So, Mr. Rudra is discussing the concepts of the GIS, and we will discuss this topic further. Now, this is time for the short break. We will be in discussion after 15 minutes. Thank you.